Swinburne University of Technology.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping by the end of the session I'll be able to demonstrate some really quick wins for you in terms of how to save you time when you're doing your own research, and also things that you can show your students to really get to the data they need quicker. So my name is Andrea. I'm based in Melbourne. I've been managing the MarketLine database for about 3 years across Asia Pacific. We've really focused on universities over the last 3 years in terms of looking at user behavior and really feeding into our development strategy in terms of what you guys need, functionality-wise, but also content, so that there are no gaps in terms of the research. So before we go in to do a bit of a live demo, I'm going to just talk through a few slides really that just set the scene and give you a bit of an overview of the database. So just to be clear, you've had access to this now through the library for a couple of years. It's unlimited usage, so please feel free to crash our server if you can try. We would love you to use it as much as possible. It's also available off campus, and if yourself or students are accessing it through a tablet or a smartphone, that's fine, because we have mobile recognition software which will adapt the interface to suit whatever platform you're on. Okay, so I'm going to speak for probably around 20 minutes, and then maybe we'll have time for questions. Okay, so let's look at the situation so far here at Swinburne. That's your annual usage, so usage over the last 12 months, which I actually think is really good considering the size of your relevant FTE. I think that's really good going, and probably testament to the library team for really promoting it. But in terms of how you compare with maybe the top 5 business schools in the country, and they have access to MarketLine as well, I think we can get that number higher, and that's why I'm here today. So on average, I guess the top universities will be downloading MarketLine reports about 25 to 30,000 a year. So you can imagine it's obviously considered a core database for business students. I think the interesting picture here is just looking at what type of reports you're accessing the most. There's no real surprise that it's those company and industry profiles. Obviously, that forms the bulk of business research, I guess, certainly for undergraduates. But it's good to see that there's a bit of use of our case studies, and I'll talk about those in a minute. I think what I would like to really increase is the usage of the tools. And when I say tools, I mean analytical tools, so things that you can actually drill down to get exactly the data you want, rather than a static report. And then, of course, we've got financial data on there and company news. So if I came back in 12 months, what I would imagine seeing is a much more even spread of that chart. So these are the kind of the units, course units that should be accessing MarketLine. So it's not just about company information. You've also got a lot of financial data in there that would be useful for accounting and economics students. And I've already spoken to the lady over there, but I think this is a really powerful tool as well for master's students. So there's a lot of things like fire-force analysis, pestle analysis, really good for MBA study. In terms of what MarketLine covers, we've tried to create a database really that has got such breadth of content as well as depth. You know, there's a plethora of business databases out there. You can't subscribe to everything, so you've got to choose something that's going to pretty much cover all your research needs for the best value, really. And that's what we've tried to build. So it's got the company reports in there, and they're not just Australia-focused. Obviously, they're global companies. You've got over 4,000 industry profiles, as I've said, all with those 5 force charts in there. If you compare that to something like IBISWorld, obviously IBISWorld's very good and concentrated on ANZ reports, but this opens up all of that global data, which is really important now that you're considered a highly ranked university in the country. It's great to have access to that as well. We've got country profiles, so all of that pestle data, things like what's the social landscape, what's the technological predictions, I guess, for Australia or any country that you might be researching. Country statistics database, that's a similar tool that maybe you're used to with something like Passport GMID, which is provided by Euromonitor. And we'll go into that and I'll show you how that works. But that is really good if you're doing feasibility studies across maybe 3 or 4 countries or some in particular industry areas. Like I said, we've got financial data on there as well, and also news. So it's not a static database, it's updated daily. And a lot of the areas are actually real-time data. As well as that, we've recently added business case studies. Now I've left a little methodology chart, which you're welcome to take away at the end, as well as one of our lovely pens. And that just shows you what we consider a case study. They're really aimed at undergrads, and they are looking at hot topics within business strategy. So there might be a case study on Facebook and looking at their new advertising model, or they might take something like Virgin Atlantic and look at what have been the good points and the bad points of their business strategy over the last 12 months. So have a look at those as well. And then we've got, through MarketLine, you've got access to market data. And this is something that we touched upon a bit with one of the academics here last week. She was saying, look, I really need market volume, market share information for my marketing students. I don't have access to that at the moment. Well, actually, you do. It's just knowing where to find it. So I'm going to cover that as well. I said we've been developing the product really for the academic market, and that's what we've done over the last 12 months. We've added these tools that helps you generate a report that's exactly tailored to your needs, so not just the company profile that you can get off the internet. You are actually choosing what information is in there. So we're going to have a look at those. And I think an important part of MarketLine is its functionality. So often with an aggregated database, maybe like EBSCO or OneSource, yes, they've got access to a lot of data, but it's just static text. And you've either got to cut and paste it or print it off, or it's not easy to manipulate. So with MarketLine, we've made every table, chart, graph, every SWOT analysis. You can just choose that and export it straight into your PowerPoint, into your Word document, or into Excel. So I think that dynamic linking really speeds up kind of the research process. So they're the 4 tools that we're going to cover in a minute in a bit more detail, and they've only been available on MarketLine for about 12 months. I'm sure you're all familiar with MarketLine's SWOT analysis. So with over pretty much 80% of our company reports, each of them have a SWOT analysis. Now, you might like students to go off and make them do their own, but let's be realistic. A lot of them will prefer to have it already there for them, and we've provided that. And there are ways that you can filter your search so you know you're going straight to the SWOT. Also, as I've said, you can create your own company report specific to an assignment that you're working on. And with that financial data, we're also looking at things like mergers and acquisitions, competitor analysis. Now, you might say, well, how can we trust the MarketLine reports? How do we know it's authoritative data? So it's a primary research database, so we have hundreds of analysts around the world and also in industry writing these reports, and then those reports are peer-reviewed. We also use secondary research, so looking at obviously company websites, stock exchange information, news sites, and they also feed into the process. So as I said, we've then got that review process. and then a quality check. So you can really trust the data that you're getting from this database. And at the end of every report, there will be what we call appendix, and that will list all of your references and your sources. Now, as with a lot of databases, particularly when they're coming out of the UK or the US, their content can be very US-centric. What I love about MarketLine is over 45% of it is Asia-Pacific focused, and so for us in Australia, that's brilliant. So you can see there's a real breadth of content there across the regions. In terms of industries as well, as you can see, there's a huge amount of FMCG data on there, but not only that, we've also got content from like the mining industry, financial services, automotive. So I think that's really good to have that as well, that kind of breadth of the industry coverage. This is designed as a rolling demo, so that's really just for students so they know where to go to next. But what we're going to do is have a look on the actual database itself. So we'll come out of this. Any questions so far? So once you go to the library website, obviously you can go to databases and then click on under M for MarketLine, and we can go straight into the database from there. Okay, so here's the home screen, hopefully very familiar to all of you. Heather, who's part of the library staff, was saying it's so easy to use, and the home page is so simplified, you almost think the quality of the data isn't there or the depth isn't there. But I was saying we're kind of a victim of our own success. We've tried to make the database as simple and intuitive as possible, because otherwise students won't use it. We know that for a fact. And as I've already told you, our usage statistics are really good. So a very simple kind of Google search box there, which you could type in a keyword, Woolworths, or a particular industry you're looking for. You could browse across the whole database. If you're not sure what industry area you want, you could jump in from there. If you're looking at certain regional content, again, that shows you what's available. Same thing with companies, it breaks it down by kind of core industries. And then finally, you've got this little database icon, and that's the kind of the exciting bit. They're the tools that I was talking to you about that not many people actually explore. So we'll do that at the very end. Before I jump into the kind of the search box, just very quickly, and I don't know how much this will be used, but if you've got international students who would prefer to have the interface in their own language, you just select it here at the bottom, and it will translate it for you.
How comprehensive is that?
Very, yeah. We use it all the time in Japan and China. And
So it's across all the databases?
it's across all of the interface, but when you actually download a report, obviously that will be in English. But I think just having that ability for them to search in their own language, is quite powerful. So definitely mention that. If you forget everything I talk about today, which is, quite likely, you can go to the support page. So if you're working with a group of students and you're going to be wanting to cover MarketLine, you can direct them here. And we've got these little 2-minute YouTube videos which show them how to use each part of the database. So that's also good to know. Okay, so we'll do a quick search now. I'll demonstrate the company reports first. So yeah, we could just search under Woolworths, but what that would bring up, obviously, is every industry report, not just every company report, every industry report, every case study that mentions Woolworths. And it will provide it in this list if we scroll down, so it's categorized it into all of the Woolworths data and the report types available. And you can also browse that at the top here. What I prefer to do as my initial search, if I know that for a student we want to get a SWOT analysis, say, on Woolworths, I would then limit my search straight away to a company report, because that's obviously going to remove all the noise. Click on the search, and then as this right-hand area of the database is where you do any further refining. So this is where you can, if you want to just choose reports from Asia Pacific, and then it will go down further. You could choose Australia. And this is where you can also jump straight into SWOT profiles. So the right-hand side of the page is always where you can limit your search. So for this exercise, we're looking at Woolworths Australia. So we'll go into the Asia Pacific area, and already that's the report that comes up first. It will always default to the most relevant research from your keywords, but you can change that if you want the latest report, or you want to search by number of employees. You can also do that. So here we have a typical executive summary from one of our company profiles. On that front page, it'll always give you key facts like, head office address, number of employees, even the salaries of the top executives, and a little biography of each key executive. Then you can see down the right-hand side, this is where I was saying about all those dynamic links. So you don't always want to download the whole report, which is what you do here. And it would obviously present it as a PDF. But you might just be interested in, like I said, the SWOT analysis, or maybe you want to look at Woolworths' key competitors. So if you jump into any of these, it will take you straight to that chapter. And then if you realize, okay, that's exactly what I need, you can just export it then into your own document. So without having to, as I said, cut and paste through a whole report. MarketLine will also suggest related research, which can be quite useful for students with their assignments. So it would also give them any company news that we have on Woolworths, so the latest maybe acquisitions that they've made. So it's very simple to use, as you can see. Now, a new function that we introduced again last year was this Ask an Analyst. And we've really done that so that you can have direct interaction with the authors of the reports. So rather than, if you've got a question about currency exchange rate used, or what did the author mean by a certain term, you can just click on that, ask your question, put in your contact details, and within 24 hours they will contact you. I think that's really powerful because obviously it cuts out any delay and any middleman, you coming to Jane and then Jane coming to me. So having that direct interaction, I think, is a big help.
I'm so glad I put their essay question in.
That's true. I haven't had any complaints yet, but we'll see. Another thing that you can use that function for is maybe there's an industry report covering 2014 data, but you actually, for your research, need 2009 for whatever reason. Just ask, if that's the data you need. They will have all that. It's just we don't keep it all on the live database. But you've got access to that archive, so do ask those kind of questions. Okay, so they're the standard company profiles that we offer. Then if we're to look at maybe the beer industry, always a popular download from the database. So we know that we're looking for industry information. And we want it for Australia. Okay, so there we have, wow, that's a very recent report, and this is a good example actually. With all of our industry and company reports, they're updated quarterly. So you don't have to wait for that year lag, as we know a lot happens in 12 months in the commercial world. So you have got those regular updates. So this is from just last week really, so we'll jump in there. And this is just show you the typical kind of MarketLine industry profile. So again, you've got your executive summary, always comes up on the home page, and then you've got your table of contents down the right-hand side. Now, what I love about our industry reports are these 5-force analysis, and that's really good for particularly master's students, and it's not a kind of an obvious thing that people know about or know how to do. So as you can see, 5-force analysis, we just felt it was a good global standard in terms of competitive intelligence and information, if you like, for certain industries. So it gives you all of these diagrams around buyer power, supplier power, new entrants to the marketplace. And more than likely, a student will want to export that straight into their own assignment, and they can do that straight from there. Just to give you an example, if we were to put that maybe into their presentation, hopefully it'll jump into PowerPoint quickly. But I just want to show you how it does present itself. So they will get the diagram, but as you can see at the bottom, it's been referenced. And I think that's important, and also a bit of referencing information there. Okay, so that's the 5-force analysis. It is available on every industry report that we have. But also within the industry profiles, we have all these standard chapters, so things like market segmentation. So who are the key players in the market, and what's the market share for each product within that market. And then it compares Australia to the rest of our region, so Asia Pacific. They drink a lot of beer in China, but then they have huge population. So some really interesting and powerful data available there. Again, pie charts and things that you can export into documents. So definitely have a play around with those. I'll just quickly demonstrate that appendix. So like I said to you, at the end of every report will be the methodology of what the analysts used. So things like national government stats, company reports, and so on. I think that's useful because you then might want to do some related research from that. And again, it prompts you at the end, well, have you got a question about my sources? So they're the industry profiles. What we're going to cover next are the country reports. So if I'm wanting to get the latest pestle analysis, say for Japan, I'll go into countries. And there we have the Japanese report. And straight away, you can get things like a map of the country, who's the current prime minister, what's the GDP. So all of that really basic country information's there for students if they need it. But then you can really dig down if they're looking at a country from a technological landscape, for example. You might have a marketing student who's looking at, looking at how to expand into the Japanese market for a certain company. So you would want to look at, the technological landscape. What's the performance? How many mobile phone users do they have? That kind of information. So that's all laid out very easily for them in those country reports. Yes.
Place where we can find the available industry reports.
A whole list, you mean? Yeah, sure. I can either send that to you as an Excel file, if that helps. Because as I said, there's 4,600. So,
not all?
It's on here, yeah. So if you just search, just did a search across the whole thing, and then went to the industry tab at the top, it will break it down for you in terms of industry sector, so metals, mining, or if you want to know how many industry reports for Australia, it will also give you that data here. Does that answer the question? Yeah? But I can also provide it to Jane or to you in terms of an Excel file, if that helps.
And that evolves, or that's kind of...
It absolutely evolves, so we're growing each day, we're adding new reports, yeah. So we've covered industry reports, company profiles, and country PASTA analysis. At the beginning I mentioned those case studies, so let's just have a quick look at those and see where you might use one of those. So you could search across all 300 and so, or again, if you just want something specific to this region, you can jump in there. But this is sorted by the latest publications. I think one of the most downloaded in the last couple of weeks has been this IKEA case study. So we try and tackle kind of hot topics and business strategy that we think are going to be relevant for a business, someone doing a bachelor degree in business. So it kind of gives you an overview of what the case study is trying to achieve. It looks at new markets for IKEA. It also will give you a conclusion at the end as to what the findings were from that research. So I think they can be certainly really good teaching tools and examples to have in the classroom. Again, if you wanted a list, like in an Excel format of all those case studies, happy to give you those. So we've covered the kind of the key reports that are available on there. What I want to show you now is that little tool area, so the database icon. If we click on that, this is where it gets really exciting. So country statistics, this is probably our most used analytical tool from MarketLine. I would say, I think QUT, about 20% of their usage is coming just from this tool. So, and they use it a lot with marketing and advertising students. So like I said at the beginning, this is similar in a way to maybe some of Passport, GMID, some of their tools. So what you can do is, if we wanted to do a comparative search with Australia, China, you can add as many countries as you like. And then we were looking at specifically the technology communications area. And we wanted to find out how many mobile phones across those two countries. And there are various different indicators you can have, you know, number of phones, number per capita, number of smartphones. Here you'll see you've got options to have absolute data, or also within this tool you've got forecasting trend data, so right through to 2019. It's going to predict how many mobile phones in each country. So let's select both. And then if we were to choose view results, it'll come up as just a simple Excel table. But what I want to do here, which is probably more powerful, is analyze the results. So immediately provided with this little drop-down box. More often than not, you'd just be looking at data from the last maybe 5 years. And as I said, it's right through to 2019. And maybe we're not entirely happy with that style of line chart. We'd like a bar chart. Hit your Run Analysis button, and it will present you with the comparison. I mean, obviously, that's not the best example of a slide, because China's got way more mobile phones than we have. But you get the idea in terms of the simplicity. So a student can very easily compare countries for certain industries. Yes, so our forecasting data, the analysts basically are predicting based on research that they've done. Yeah. If we wanted to view the results and maybe manipulate them for your own research, then you could export them as an Excel file and do that there. So very, very easy to use if you need that kind of level of country data. Then I think that probably the second most used tool is this market data analytics, and this is really key for marketing students. So if, like the academic who we had last week, really wants to look across the FMCG space, so all that consumer industry information, if you like, in terms of the market value, the market volume, and very easily able to compare. So if we were looking at maybe the food industry, you can see there's very granular detail that you can have. So if we were to look at baby food, for example, or you could expand that further. And then we choose our countries. And again, it gives you the regions, or you can expand those as you need to. So you can imagine, compared with other databases, maybe something like Mint Global, which is fabulous in terms of the data, but to try and use it is absolute nightmare. Students can just click a few boxes and very quickly pull out the data they need. And they can have it again as an Excel file, or if you want it as a bubble chart even. They seem to be more and more popular. And then you can also refine the search here at the top. So very easy to manipulate that data. We're looking at market volume for those countries at the moment.
Where's the definitional information? For example, dairy food, does that cover in terms of what's in this database?
Okay, so in terms of like that, the methodology or the...
Well, how is dairy food
defined? That will be... There will be some of that information in the appendix, but if you think you need more information, then use the Ask an Analyst and they'll let you know. So that's the two, country statistics and market data analytics, fairly obvious but very powerful tools that I think that would definitely benefit students here. Then we've got Company Prospector. I'll just touch on this quickly because it's really good for contact data. I don't know if it's something you would use with students, but certainly at other universities, students from time to time need to contact maybe a key executive of, Apple or some more local company. This will give them that information. It's a very powerful list building tool, I guess, and we use this a lot in industry. So Deloitte, Ernst & Young, all of the top kind of accounting firms use MarketLine for strategic analysis, but also for business development. And this is where this tool really comes into its own. So again, it's based on an industry level. It provides kind of core industries here, but often the research I do is I want to have all industries shown. So for example, if we go into energy and utilities, and MarketLine is used a lot within that space, and we click on utilities, and then we choose our geography. Again, you can do country comparisons if you need to, but just for now, I'll click Australia. It always defaults to data taken from the last 2 years, which really is probably the most useful when you talk about contacts. And then if we view our results here, so you can see with the tools, they all look fairly similar in terms of that tick box, certain indicators. So it's quickly pulled up all of the utility companies in Australia, which is fine. It's sorted them by revenue. But what I really want to get is the contact data. So if you click on this display options, and I want the phone, the address, and the top executive names, and then update that. You can imagine this is really powerful for anyone doing market research. So there we've got the phone number for Julian Siegel at Caltex. I'm sure he'll be delighted to get a call from a Swinburne student. If, for example, certainly in business, when a business development team want to use this, if they click on all companies in that space, and then they can export it into their own Excel file, share it with the company and say, right, you take X, Y, and Z, let's call these people. So you can see within a matter of minutes, you've got a lot of information there for students. So have a play around with that for sure. I think the other tools, although valuable, they will be more useful. So this financial deals tracker and the investment prospector, really useful for the accounting and certainly management accounting students, and also economics. I'll just quickly show you how these look. And I was saying to you before about the database, a lot of the time is real-time data. So it's updated constantly. Obviously, for this space, it's important that we have that currency of information. So you might have a student looking at merger and acquisitions information for a certain industry or company. It takes a couple of minutes because it is such a large, I guess, separate database. So what it presents you with straight off is a global picture of all the financial deals going on in the world, and here's a heat map so you can see the concentration. That might be useful for someone who's working in the stock exchange or whatever, but I think from a research point of view, we would probably more be interested in a certain maybe industry side, so financial services and perhaps a specific country. So that will very quickly look at the latest deals happening in our space, just for that industry. Just thinking about it a minute. So there we know that Suncor appoints a new CEO, CBA have launched a new app for smartwatches. So all of that kind of news data can be really useful for certainly students. And they're all dynamically linked, so if you just click on that, it will take you to a bit more about that news item. And you can, my phone number at work is obviously on our website, so I'm often getting calls from the ABC saying, can you confirm so-and-so, we've seen this on your news site, which is quite bizarre. So that's the financial deals tool. Probably not, the bulk of what you're doing here, but certainly good to know about. Any questions on those kind of analytical tools? If there's a specific one you're interested in, I do have like little user guides with screen grabs and stuff. So for each one, if you come and ask me at the end, I'll be happy to give you those. That's pretty much the database in a nutshell. I mean, obviously the best thing for you to do is go away and explore and see how it really helps you in your specific areas of research, or if you're with a student at the reference desk, I'm hoping that you can very quickly get to the data now that you need. Any comments or things that you'd like to see on there that's not? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just so I can tell the students how they appreciate it a bit more.
Yes.
If you were not at Swinburne,
Yeah.
How much would this typical amount of information there cost you?
That's a very good question. Something I should have said, actually, a lot of your alumni students will also use in their working life MarketLine reports because, like I said, we're in all of the top accounting firms, mining companies. So a corporate subscription would typically be around kind of $10,000, and that would, the way that they access it is slightly different, but that would be for like a single user or maybe just their strategic division, if you see what I mean. Whereas for university, obviously, you have access across campus and so on.
So a division or an individual user within a company? A whole big sort of multinational corporation?
So for someone like, I guess, Deloitte, which is a global, they have global access to MarketLine, I think it's around $100,000. But if you think about it in terms of, okay, this is strategic information that they're basing direction for their company on. So from their point of view, it saves them money in a sense.
And that's annual.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's annual.
That's an annual. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
If you compare that to, you can buy the reports as a one-off, so you can pay per view in that way, and they are $500 a report. So it really depends how many people are using it.
Are the companies mainly large multinational organisations, or do you use small to medium-sized enterprises as well?
In terms of the companies in the database, yeah, no, that's a good question. We do also cover small to medium enterprises, so, and in terms of public or private, it's 80% are public listed, 20% private companies. But we obviously we're focused on the kind of the Fortune 500 companies and those with high turnover, but you know there's 35,000 companies listed in there. So yeah, we definitely, in answer to your question, we have small local companies as well.
So is there a tool that we could use in data analytics whereby we could perhaps tap into this needs that you have available?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So if I were to do a research on small to medium enterprises,
Yeah.
and I'd like to get access to,
Okay.
say,
Yep.
for example, stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually a good point because we could make that a kind of a refining option because it would be very easy to do. I mean, you can do it in a kind of clunky way, I suppose, by, yeah. So it will sort it by size of employees or revenue. You know, that sort of area where I showed you before, or even down here on the right-hand side, you know, you can quickly go into those smaller companies. But you're right, we should add that as a little drop-down function.
Because what it would be, right, is
Yeah.
to actually be able to, export that into Excel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Things like the revenue,
Yeah.
profitability, ROA, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's sort of available.
Yeah, that's available in each report. Yeah. You can have that.
Exported to Excel.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's in data analytics. I mean, databases.
It's in the core database, yeah. So in the company area.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
we can, like, in global, we can actually do a search.
Yeah.
And then so if you, for example, you say by turnover or whatever, or market capitalization, and then we can actually get their ROA, their profit margin, and that sort of thing, and export that into.
You can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that through this tool here, which is the company report generator. So that sits on top of all of those company profiles that we looked at with all that revenue data. But like I said to you, it allows you to build your own report. I think that kind of does what you're describing, but I'll have a look. I'll compare it to Mint Global and see if we've got kind of an exact. So, for example, if we chose Woolworths again, rather than it providing you that static company profile, you can build your own report here. So it will give you all the subsidiaries, obviously.
This is more a case where you're looking at an industry sector.
What I'm interested in is not companies.
Okay.
For example, I'd like to specify companies that I'm looking for all companies that got this market capitalization,
Okay.
these certain characteristics, and then it will produce.
For example, the dairy industry or something. Okay. It will only give you that data for like the key players, not for the SMEs. But we can add it in. Yeah. I think that's a good suggestion.
But yeah, the SMEs would be really good because we have very limited databases that provide information about SMEs.
Okay.
If you already have it there,
Okay.
I'd like that.
Okay. All right, we can do that then. You just reminded me of something. I was doing a search for Bunnings the other day for a customer, and I didn't realize that Bunnings is owned by Wesfarmers. As most of these large corporates are owned by someone else. So because we put in Bunnings there, it's come up with these three, which will obviously have some connection with Bunnings. But in the Wesfarmers report itself.
Yeah, we kind of always assume undergraduates know that.
Yeah. Yes, but what I like about the company reports, if you go into major products and services, it will give them a very clear view of who owns who, so all the different brands. So, I mean, there's things I did not know.
Scary.
Yeah, it is scary. Yes, sir.
In terms of the data sources, the listed companies are getting obviously from the file reports, but non-listed entities, where are you getting that data from?
Obviously, we can only extract data that's released publicly. Yeah, exactly.
Do you use D&D?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah. MarketLine reports are also licensed, so some companies will pay us to use our reports in their databases, such as Thomson Reuters in one source. If you've got any company reports in there, they're MarketLine reports. But the problem is they're static PDFs, so you don't have that kind of export function.
One of the questions that comes up with students, and as an educator, I probably before.
Yeah.
How do they measure the performance of that organisation against the industry sector? So, do you have anything that has like a benchmark? So, return on investment of 5%, 4% across the industry. Is there anywhere where they can go and quickly get access to benchmark?
The benchmark.
That looks across a particular industry.
Yeah.
So that they can see, when they're looking at the performance metrics, they can see, against the benchmark, that's actually quite good. There's been a 4% increase in revenue or profit.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean in terms of what's happening across the industry?
Yes. There is, if you dig down into those industry profiles, then there is that level of data. Yeah. And if there's something more granular you need, again, just ask them. So, yeah, please go away, use it, talk to the students about it. I think you'll find it is really powerful in terms of the quantity of data there, but also the functionality. And if you've got any questions, please do just drop me a line. We don't have an alert system as such. So say you're working on for a particular semester around the automotive industry sector, you need to know what are the latest reports or findings. We alert you through Twitter. Now, obviously, it's not ideal because everyone's on Twitter, but we have little community groups for each industry area. So every time a new report's on MarketLine, we'll just announce it on Twitter. And I can give you those Twitter feeds to follow. Okay, thank you.
This has been a Swinburne production.